Now, when doing a search in Perplexity, you have a number of options, and I've just covered one of them with regards to what sources we want to use for our search. You can do a general search, which are fast answers to everyday questions. And by the way, I'm going to switch back over to Comet, and you'll notice we have these the exact same options, or virtually the exact same options here in Comet. And you can tell we're in Comet because we don't have all the other, we don't have these, we've got the slide out, but we don't have the icons here. But more importantly, the one way you can always tell whether you're in Comet or Perplexity is with these buttons up here and the assistant. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Microsoft Edge. So we've got the ability to do a general fast search, fast answers to everyday questions, okay? 3 times more sources with powerful models and increased limits and so on. Okay, then we have deep research, and I love this deep research capability. Now, typically, usually a fast search can be done within 15 to 30 seconds, and probably faster than that. A deep research will normally take 3 to 5 minutes, and it will do a far more intensive and deep research into whatever topic that you're interested in. Okay, and then we have Labs. I'm going to come back to Microsoft Labs in just a little bit. Okay, and then we have the ability to choose a model. Okay, now Sonar, now best is, by default, best is selected, and I always leave it set at best because Perplexity then decides which of my internal models do I think will best handle this request. Sonar is actually one of Perplexity's internal self-built models that's not owned by another company, as far as I know. Then we have Claude from Anthropic, GPT-5, which is OpenAI, Gemini, which is Google, and then some other models here. So you can select whatever model you want. Then we have the ability to attach a file. And this is what's called multimodal. Okay, so you may hear search engine provides for is multimodal, and that means that you are able to upload a text file, an image, a video file, MP3, which is audio, and so on. And then we have dictation, which means I can turn this on. I'm not going to because it would conflict with my microphone, but I can turn this on, and then instead of typing, I can actually talk into my microphone and have it displayed here, which some people prefer over typing. Now, that's never worked too well with me. Because I always find myself, I've tried this, and when I when I tell Perplexity what I want verbally, I always got to go back and correct mistakes I've made, or I just prefer to think through it as I'm typing. Anyway, these are the major options you have when conducting a search. And then we've got some buttons down here: troubleshoot, health, summarize, local, and travel. And these are just really ways of some ideas for health-related queries you might want to do, or local information that occurs locally, and then Perplexity will prompt you for your location, and then some travel ideas and so on. Then there's also this summarize button, and summarize will attempt to summarize whatever it is that you're looking at, whether it's a YouTube video. Remember now that this is also built into Comet, and we did quite an extensive coverage of the different types of summarizations that you can do in Comet. Well, again, that's just building on what's built into Perplexity. So we've got some options down here. I don't ever use these. I don't really need ideas on what I want to search, because usually when I come here, I know exactly what it is I want to try to find, or what topic I want to research. Now, one thing that you can do, of course, in Perplexity or Comet is a follow-up question. So I could say, what is, again, lovable AI? Okay, now I'm going to pause this and come back when it's done. Now, the key here is contextual memory and conversational continuity. Okay, so that sounds impressive, but actually it's a good thing, because Perplexity maintains context over sessions. So it allows us, the users, to ask follow-up questions and to dig deeper. Ideal for more complex types of researches or iterative research workflows. So I just did a search on Lovable AI. Now I'm going to ask, what does it cost? Now notice I'm not asking what does Lovable AI cost. I'm asking what does it cost. The only way you can answer this is to remember our conversation and what it is that, the whole history of my conversation with Perplexity. Now, other AI tools do this too. ChatGPT does this. Most of them do this. Perplexity does it as well. And of course, Comet does it also. But it's nice that it maintains a history of our conversation. So now I'm going to pass this on. What does it cost? And providing overview of the cost details. Lovable uses a tiered credit-based pricing model. Okay, so it only knew that because it maintained a history of what we have talking about, or what we've talked about. And by the way, I could come back to this conversation a month from now, and it would automatically be able to pick up exactly where we left off. Now, at the bottom of the response, we've got some links. We can share this link. So I could share this search that I did with someone else. I could export this, so I could export this whole conversation to a PDF or Markdown, which is it's a simplified version of HTML, or a Word document file. I could have Perplexity rewrite it, or I could change the model, Pro Search and so on. I could say, yes, it's helpful, no, it's not. I've never really understood why these are here. I don't know who looks at them. I don't know who's going to determine what they're even going to do. If I say, no, that wasn't helpful, I don't know who's going to look at that necessarily. I could copy this to the clipboard, or I can choose to view my sources, report. If I find something maybe offensive in the output, I can report it, or I can simply delete it. And then Perplexity always does a nice job at the bottom to offer some related queries if you're interested. For example, what is the base cost of Lovable's Pro plan? Are there any additional fees for enterprise features? Now, I don't know if these are questions that other people have asked. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. But normally, these related questions or related queries are often quite useful and directly related to my initial query or my follow-up query. And then one thing I often find useful, depending on what kind of research I'm doing, is clicking this images link here. This will return all of the images that were returned in your response. Now, sometimes Perplexity will embed the images in the response. Other times it just puts them at the top here. And then as I've mentioned before, we've got all of our sources and then the steps that it went through to actually generate the response. And then before I wrap up part 2, I just want to show a few more options. Up here on the right, we have this share link. We saw that down below. We also have a little menu here. We can add this to a space. I'm going to talk about spaces in a minute. I can convert this to a page. I can create a task based on this. In other words, and we've also got the 3 export options, PDF, Markdown, and Doc, or I could just delete the whole thing. So if I'm done with this and I don't want to keep it, I can just delete it. In fact, that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to delete, and yes, I want to delete the thread, and now we're back starting over.